10 countries where women far outnumber men. 1. Armenia 55.04%. The 20th century has seen many hardships for the ancient nation of Armenia. The country has not benefited from Soviet control or neighbor warfare. But the Armenian genocide, which occurred during and after World War I, is mostly to blame for the country's low male population. During the Turkish Ottoman era, 1.5 million Armenians were executed in large-scale executions or marched across the Syrian desert to meet their demise. The term genocide was used as a result of the killings because they were so thoroughly planned and executed. Numerous documents indicate that most of the victims were men. Recently, American males have been departing in search of employment due to economic unrest. There exist. 2. Ukraine 54.40%. Given the current situation in Ukraine, as the conflict rages on and the number of casualties keeps rising, the gender disparity will probably widen. The low proportion of men in Ukraine has long been a problem, even before the present conflict between Russia and Ukraine began, despite the dire circumstances of the country now. It is widely acknowledged among historians that the impact of the Second World War on the male population of Ukraine was so great that it has yet to return to pre-1941 levels. It is unlikely that this tendency will change anytime soon if the Russian and Ukrainian war rages on. 3. Belarus 53.99%. One of Eastern Europe's saddest tales, Belarus is still scarred from its past. The region that would eventually become Belarus, which was bordered by Nazi Germany at the time, was completely destroyed during World War II. The greatest per capita casualties of the conflict occurred in Belarus, where the fighting claimed the lives of about 25% of the country's population. As the last genuine dictatorship remaining on the continent, Belarus is among the poorest countries in Europe. Economic opportunities are limited, and living conditions are low. Due to this, a large number of young men have fled to other regions of Europe. 4. Latvia 53.57%. One of Eastern Europe's saddest tales, Belarus is still scarred from its past. The region that would eventually become Belarus, which was bordered by Nazi Germany at the time, was completely destroyed during World War II. The greatest per capita casualties of the conflict occurred in Belarus, where the fighting claimed the lives of about 25% of the country's population. As the last genuine dictatorship remaining on the continent, Belarus is among the poorest countries in Europe. Economic opportunities are limited, and living conditions are low. Due to this, a large number of young men have fled to other regions of Europe. 5. Russia 53.55%. Like their neighbor Ukraine, Russia can likewise credit the Second World War's devastation for some of its gender gap. During the conflict, the Soviet Union lost an incredible 27 million people, making it the country with the greatest casualties overall. But Russia has more women than men for other reasons besides its dark past. Russian men had a significantly higher likelihood of becoming alcoholics, much as those in Estonia and Lithuania. After the Soviet Union fell apart in the early 1990s, this situation only got worse. A large portion of Russia's male population has been suffering from the long-term impacts of regular cigarette smoking and heavy drinking for the past 30 years or so. 6. Lithuania 53.02%. Like its Baltic cousins Latvia, the male population of Lithuania engages in self-destructive behavior. In this country, men are far more likely to abuse alcohol and smoke. In this region of the world, smoking is so prevalent that almost 1/3 of Lithuanian men smoke regularly, and many more smoke sometimes. One of the main goals of the Lithuanian health authorities is to discourage cigarette usage. Lithuania has suffered from its young and productive men fleeing to other regions of Europe, such as Germany or England, in search of better opportunities. 7. Georgia 53.00%. Georgia is a small country with only 3.7 million people living in it. Approximately 52.98% of those are female, and the remaining 47.02% are male. One of the world's oldest Christian countries, Georgia has a lengthy history of defending itself against numerous invasions by strong neighbors like Turkey and Russia. High emigration rates are also a result of economic prospects encouraging many male citizens to look for work elsewhere. In the end, mortality is the only factor accountable for the disparity in the number of males and females. Similar to numerous other nations on this list, the cause is attributed to smoking, alcohol use, and risk-taking activities. 8. Portugal 52.80%. Gender equality has increased in tandem with Portugal's female population growth since 2010. Despite these advancements for women, Portugal's economy has faltered in the past 10 years, which has driven many Portuguese males to emigrate in search of a better future. Brazil and other EU members are the most popular destinations for Portuguese men to move. The lower life expectancy of Portuguese men contributes to the bigger population of women. Portuguese men typically live 78 years, while Portuguese women typically live 84 years. 9. Zimbabwe 52.72%. Different nations experience progress in different ways. In Zimbabwe, for example, as of February 2021, women had 31.9% of the parliamentary seats. Nevertheless, this benefit is mitigated by the high number of women in the nation, which can lead to other issues. The male death rate in 2020 was 413%, which is rather low when you compare it to the US average of 138%. The chance of passing away between the ages of 15 and 60 is represented by this rate. Given the recent decline in Zimbabwe's general mortality rate, it is quite probable that disparities such as the gender ratio could level off in the future. 10. Estonia 52.47%. Along with a host of public health problems related to binge drinking and smoking, Estonia continues to suffer from its involvement in the Second World War, much like the other Eastern European countries on this list. An typical Estonian guy drinks 17.5 liters of alcohol a year, which is more than twice as much as an Estonian woman does. At 12.2 suicides per 100,000 people, Estonia has one of the highest rates of suicide in Europe. Men commit themselves at a rate nearly 5 times higher than that of women. Every year, around 11,000 people go from Estonia in order to work temporarily or permanently relocate elsewhere. The majority of these migrants are males seeking improved economic opportunities.